Hello, everyone. Hello, Kelly.
Hello, James. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Life, Death, and Beyond. And we're mostly beyond, but we're here.
Yes, we
And
are.
I hope you can see this broadcast. Kelly and I came on, and we're wearing the exact same color, I guess
hmm
a mustard color, and
Mustard
we didn't
yellow.
plan.
We did not plan it. In
I mean,
fact, both of us
really
found out
odd.
that we were wearing blue all day, and then we both switched at the last minute to mustard. What can you
Very
say?
strange.
Very strange.
Well, we're very, very excited today. It's a very special program. We have a very special guest who has helped influence the world with her experiences of a near-death experience. And I just said to her that you're an OG like I am, been around a long time, and really opened up the door. Right? Would you say, Kelly, opened up the door
Yes,
to the NDE experience?
yes,
And
yes.
so I'd love to bring on Anita Moorjani, everybody.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi
thank
there.
you.
Hi,
Hi, Anita.
Anita. So, so
Welcome.
happy you're on with us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really thrilled to be here. And I didn't get the memo about the color uniform.
That's okay. Blue works beautifully.
Very beautifully. And Kelly, you want to read for those who don't know Anita? I'm not
For
sure
those of you
everyone
who
knows.
don't know Anita, let me just tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll go right into her fabulous story. Anita
Woohoo.
Moorjani is a New York Times bestselling author, international speaker, and a cancer survivor. Anita had been working in the corporate world for several years before being diagnosed with cancer in April of 2002. Her fascination and moving near-death experience in early 2006 tremendously changed her perspective on life, and her work is now ingrained with the depths and insights she gained during her experience. She is the author of Dying to Be Me, which has sold over 1 million copies worldwide and has been published in more than 40 languages. And her latest book, everybody, is Sensitive is the New Strong, The Power of Empaths in an Increasingly Harsh World. So please welcome, everybody, Anita Moorjani. Hi, Anita.
Yay, Anita.
Yay.
Thank
Yay.
you. Thank you. I'm so happy and honored to be here. And
Yes.
Well, lovely having you here.
So, well, tell
And
us about before you worked in the corporate world.
yes, but I worked in the corporate world, but I always knew I wasn't cut out for that world, even though I worked in the corporate world. I did that because that was, I had to earn money, and I was very often, not very often, but once or twice, had bosses who were extremely like the bullies. I was bullied by bosses. And I did struggle a lot until I reached a point in 2002 when I was sick. But I was someone who didn't fit in very well with life. And I never realized at that time that I am someone who is an empath, who's super sensitive. And I used to feel people's feelings. I was always quite intuitive, but I didn't, but I used to repress all these things, trying to fit into the corporate world, fit in to having friends, fit in with everyone who's being competitive. So I would try and just go along with everyone else. And also my upbringing, I had a bad relationship with my dad. My dad was not a good father, and really, I could never win his approval. No matter what I did, he was unpredictable, bad-tempered. So basically, in 2002, I was diagnosed with cancer. I was married to a beautiful man, Danny, who is my husband, still today. Uh, and my condition deteriorated. And in 2006, I went into a coma. I had the final stages of lymphoma, where the doctors told my family that these are my final hours and that I was dying and my organs were now shut down. And at that time, I weighed about 85 pounds and my lungs were filled with fluid. The cancer had spread throughout my lymphatic system, where I had tumors the size of golf balls from the base of my skull, all around my neck, down under my arms, in my chest, all the way down to my abdomen. And my body stopped absorbing nutrition. So my muscles were completely atrophied. I couldn't walk. My lungs were filled with fluid. And then I went into a coma, and I was I was skin and bones. I weighed 85 pounds, and I went into a coma. But when I was in the coma, even though the doctors were telling my family that I was dying, my organs are shutting down, and I wasn't going to make it through the night, I left my body, and I felt incredible. I felt amazing. I felt light and free, and just I felt a feeling I've never felt in my life before. It was incredible. And for the first time in my life, if you will, but I wasn't alive, but for the first time, I felt powerful, and I felt um, like a feeling of like unconditional love, like I was bathed in this feeling of love. And I just felt so incredible. I don't recall ever feeling like this before in physical life. And then I started to realize, first I was noticing everything that was happening around in the hospital room, everything that was happening around my physical body, doctors rushing to put IV feeds, finding my veins to put IVs into me, tubes. I was connected to all these machines, reading my heart rate and everything, and food tubes. And then I was aware of conversations that were being taken place outside of my hospital room, where the doctor was telling my husband that I won't even make it through the night. And my awareness was just going up and outward. And then I started to become aware of other beings who were there and surrounding my body and helping me through this process of dying. And one of the beings was my dad, who had passed away 10 years prior. But this was my dad, who I had always had a very turbulent relationship with. But now here I was, my spirit and his spirit, and all I felt from him was pure, unconditional love, just pure love. And it was like he wanted me to know that he actually had always loved me, but just didn't know how to show it. Like he was a bad father, but he wanted me to know that he'd never meant to hurt me. That was the only way he knew how to be. And I realized when I was there that, when we die, we leave behind our physical bodies. But not only do we leave behind our physical bodies, but we leave behind our gender, our culture, our race, our religion. All of it gets left behind, all our baggage, all our traumas. And so what crosses over is just our pure essence. It's pure love. And that's what I felt from my dad. And it was like his essence and my essence. And we don't have any biology with which to communicate. We don't have vocal cords. So it's almost like just energies, two pure energies, just immersing with each other and knowing what you want each other to know. There's no miscommunication. It's because no words are needed. And I was aware that my family, my physical family, were around my body and they were distraught. And I wanted them to know that I'm fine, I'm amazing, I feel incredible, better than ever before, because I had been in so much pain and so much fear for years. But there was no way for me to communicate with them. I mean, I know if I had been there longer, like when someone doesn't come back, eventually they figure out ways to communicate with people through different ways. And this is why I understand about what it feels like to be a spirit and how hard it is to communicate with our loved ones. But I just wanted my family to know I'm okay. I'm more than okay. I'm fantastic. I feel better than ever before. But and again, no voice, no vocal cords, and I wasn't able to communicate that with them. So it was quite an incredible experience.
Anita, when you left your body for the first time, did you know that you were dying, or just were you out of the body? Was there a sensation of leaving the body, or were you just out of the body?
It felt like I was expanding so that I was coming out of the body, not even pouring out, but like my spirit or it's kind of like my awareness started to leave the body and become more aware of my soul or my spirit. And then the awareness begins to realize, like my awareness starts to realize that, oh my gosh, but this spirit or this soul is so much bigger than the body. Oh my gosh, where does it end? It doesn't end. And it goes on. So it's like I'm expanding and expanding. And it's like, oh, there's no border. There's no physical end to where I am. The physical end was when we're in the body and we think that this is all we are. But actually, I'm so much more. I'm much more than just the body. So it was a sensation like that.
And your father, when you saw your father, was there a recognition of a soul to soul recognition, or an agreement that in this lifetime that you had to go through this with each other? Was any of that part of it, or was it much bigger than that?
So there was like a soul to soul recognition. I was aware that he did not have a physical body, but it was almost like getting a flash of an image of what my father looked like in physical life, so that I would know this is him. But the essence was unmistakable. And what was a big surprise to me was how loving he was on the other side. If I didn't get that feeling, that image, I almost wouldn't have recognized it, because he was not a loving person in physical life at all. And I started to understand from my dad that I had a bigger purpose. And all of this, everything that had happened to me, was setting me up for something bigger. So like I reached a point where I was given a choice as to whether I wanted to come back into my physical body or not. Now, no part of me wanted to come back because it was so beautiful on that side. And over here, my physical body was in so much pain. I'd been in so much pain and fear and discomfort. I was always choking on the fluid in my lungs. And so no part of me wanted to come back. My family had been suffering, taking care of me. But my dad wanted me to know that my purpose wasn't complete yet. So he wanted me to know that I had suffered enough. And if I didn't go back, I would be missing out on the gifts or the lessons from the suffering, and that I had things to experience still. And I realized that even my husband's purpose and my purpose was linked. And if I didn't come back, he wouldn't be able to fulfill his purpose either.
And when you thought of your husband, did you see also at that moment other lifetimes, other experiences with him?
Yes, I did. I saw other experiences and lifetimes with my husband. I even saw glimpses, not full understanding, but glimpses of our future here together if I came back. And then I also saw like my brother at that moment when I was dying. My brother was on a plane trying to get to me before I died. And I remember actually feeling in that state, I'm going to try and stay alive. I'm going to try and keep my body alive until my brother gets here, because I don't want him to feel he got here too late. I didn't want to leave him with that feeling. And then that moment, as I was doing that for my brother, keeping my body alive, and this tells me that our souls have so much autonomy over our physical bodies to choose when we die. And so as I was keeping my body alive for my brother, just so he wouldn't feel guilty that he missed me, I started to get all this. I started to see lives that I had lived with my brother. And I started to see, so my brother is older than me in this lifetime. I saw a lifetime where he was still my brother, but he was younger than me. I was the oldest sibling and he was the youngest. And I was very protective of him in that lifetime. And it was a lifetime where my parents were at work, and we worked and we lived somewhere really rural, like in the fields or in the farms. And both my parents were out working in the fields. And I was at home taking care of my younger siblings. And this brother, who is my brother in this lifetime, he was the youngest. And so this lifetime I was actually carrying him in my arms. I was maybe a teenager and he was a toddler. And I was carrying him in my arms and being really protective over him. And that same feeling came to me, like here, while I was waiting for him to get to me. It's like, oh, I can't do this to him. So I could see and feel these other lifetimes that were just coming in and out, images and
I have a
feelings.
question for you, Anita, which I want to was asking you, did you find through that experience with your father and your brother, there were common threads through these lifetimes of certain lessons, perhaps?
There were common threads, and one thread for me that was really common is I seem to feel, at least the lifetimes that popped up for me, and I'm sure I've had other lifetimes, in each one I was female, I was a woman, and in each one I was I'm going to say more repressed or downtrodden because of being a woman. I was in cultures. In each one, I'm in a culture where the woman is in the more subservient and caregiving role, where my role was to take care of the men in the culture. And it almost felt like this lifetime was the one in which I am supposed to break through that. Break through that barrier and show people that as a woman, because growing up, that was the issue I had with my dad. He repressed me as a woman. He felt I needed to have an arranged marriage, and it was the same pattern. And this is the lifetime that was my lesson to break that cycle.
So would it have been you and your father's agreement that he would be here to help you with that in some way?
I can see that. Yes. Very much so.
And Anita, let me ask you this: Do you find that I've always want to ask someone this question? You're the first person I can ask this to. Is there such a thing as parallel lives? Do you think?
Yes.
I want to ask you about that. Tell us more.
So this is what it feels like, and it's so hard to explain because our brains can't conceive time as being parallel. We think of time as linear, so it has to be one life after the other, even within a life, one point of time at a time. So I like to use metaphors or analogies because we don't have language in our culture. We don't, in the English language, there's no language to explain it. So the best way I can explain it is if you imagine an apartment building, for example, and you are so let's say it's an apartment building with 7 stories. Each story has one apartment. So let's say you are in one of the stories. Let's say you're in the 4th story. When you're in the 4th story and you're walking up and down that apartment, you can't see any of the other apartments because you're in that one apartment. You're only there, and all you can see is the 4th story, your apartment, because you're inside your apartment. But when you are outside the apartment building and you're looking at the building from the outside, you can see, oh my gosh, there are 7 stories. I was only in one of them, but all 7 apartments exist simultaneously. And the whole building is my soul. The whole building is me. And and when I'm in the physical, what it means to be in the physical means your awareness is only at one point of time at a time. So when I'm in the physical, my awareness is only in one apartment at a time. But when I am in the non-physical, I have access to the whole building. I'm outside the building. I have access to the whole building, and I am weaving in and out of the different apartments, getting what I need from each apartment for my soul's growth. But they all exist simultaneously.
Great explanation. We're the best I've ever heard, honestly. Really incredible.
Wow. Could you explain karma now that you've had these experiences?
Good question, Kelly.
That's a great question. So my parents are Hindu, and I grew up learning karma and reincarnation in a very linear fashion, only to have this near-death experience and realize it's not linear. So the way I learned it, and I know a lot of Hindus don't necessarily believe it this way. There's so many variations, but I'm going to qualify this by saying this is the way I learned it. Karma and is just what you get. It's what you sow, and that's what you reap. So in other words, but it was very straightforward in that if you harm people, if you kill people in your next life, it's going to happen to you, or you're going to be punished in your next life. Now, some people even believe that you can come back as a cockroach or something if you do really horrible things in this life. Now, for me, I actually believed that. And what happened is that even when I had cancer and I was struggling with it for 4 years, and it felt like I was trying everything to heal the cancer. I was just trying everything and nothing was working. I was fighting and fighting and fighting against this disease in my body, and nothing was working. And so people from my culture would tell me that it must be your karma. So you must do more good work to erase the karma. So I would be doing more good work, more charity work. Unfortunately, it was having the opposite effect, and it was making me sicker, because what I didn't realize was the reason I got sick, which I understood when I was on the other side, is because I had always repressed myself. I had always been a people pleaser because I'd never got my dad's approval. I always felt I didn't fit in. And so I had always repressed myself. I had always tried to be a good person because I was afraid of karma. I was in a culture, at least my experience of my culture was that where we were, as women, we had to repress ourselves, and our worth was measured by how valuable we were to the men in our community. So I was always in service to the men in our community. We weren't allowed to move out of the house, even as an adult woman. I had to stay with my parents until they found me a suitable husband. Then I had to move in with my husband. And then if I wanted to work, it would be dependent on whether my husband would allow me to work or not. And so that's the kind of culture I grew up in. And so I was very repressed, very restricted, but deep down, I wanted to be free. I wanted to fly. I wanted to work. I wanted to travel the world. There were so many things I wanted to do that I couldn't do. I also grew up learning that the ego is bad. And so I would repress myself thinking, oh, when I want something, it's my ego, so I better repress it. So to the point where I really was a people pleaser, a doormat, and I was always in service to everyone else except me. And so when I was then told that, oh, it must be your karma, you have to do more good work, I was already a doormat. So I depleted myself to the point of becoming invisible. And in fact, it made me sicker. When I died, I realized that I needed the opposite message. I needed a message that said, you need to fly. You need to be you. You need to be all that you can be. You need to stop being a doormat and a people pleaser. You need to love yourself. You're not worthless and invaluable and only valuable to serving when you serve men. You know, I needed the complete opposite message. So anyway, going back to your question about karma, I'm sorry this is so long-winded.
Oh, keep on going. We love it.
Yeah, so I realized that even what we learn as karma, because I was learning this was my karma, you have to do more good work. I realized that karma is not linear in that way. It's not linear in that you do bad things and you get punished for it. You do good things and you're rewarded for it. It's not. This world is all, this life, our soul is here to gather experiences. And sometimes you might think somebody is doing something horrible to you, but they're actually setting you up for something else that's amazing, to make you powerful for something else. And where, I thought these things were my bad karma, but they weren't, because the life I have today, I wouldn't trade it for anything, like nothing. I wouldn't trade any of my experiences. I love what I do today. And I think right now, if you ask me about my current life, I would say I have the best karma ever to get to do what I do. So it really is, again, back to that building. It's not linear that you do bad things in one life and you're going to suffer in the next. It's not. You look at the whole building, and it is a combination of experiences that make the soul whole. That's how I see it.
Wow.
Wow. One of the best explanations I've ever heard.
Ever. Oh my gosh. I also love the metaphor you give in one of your talks. I think it was a TED talk about the warehouse and shining a light. Could you tell everybody that? Because it gives everybody an experience.
Sure, absolutely. So what it felt like is, if you imagine that this physical life is like walking in a darkened room by the light of one little flashlight, and all you can see is what you're shining your little flashlight on. But imagine that one day these big floodlights go on, these lights go on, and you realize that you are in a huge warehouse, maybe even the size of a football field, huge, with floor to ceiling shelves. And all these shelves are lined with all kinds of things, like beautiful things, some things maybe not so beautiful, some scary things, but there's things of that are joyful and wondrous. And there's, like, it could be anything. It could be books, toys, clothes, monsters, like just all kinds of things, and things in different colors. And there are colors that you've never seen just lining these shelves. There are things you've never seen, things that you could never even guess what are they. Some things look scary. And so suddenly you can see all these things simultaneously. And you realize that you have seen some of these things before because your flashlight shone on them. But yet, now that the lights have gone on, you're seeing so many things simultaneously that you've never seen before. And dotted among them are the things you have seen before, which your flashlight had shone on. Now, imagine the lights go back off again, and you're back to one flashlight. And your flashlight is shining again only on one thing at a time, because it's a tiny little flashlight. But you're aware that all these other things exist, but it's just that you can't see them right now. They're outside of your awareness because your flashlight is not shining on it right now. Now, what I use this metaphor to explain is that when we are living in this physical life, we think that what you are aware of, what I am aware of right now, is all there is to reality. That's all there is. But there is a lot more to reality than what my awareness is currently focused on. My awareness is that flashlight. Your awareness is your flashlight. And your awareness and my awareness and everybody who's watching, each of our awarenesses are focusing on a different thing. But they all exist simultaneously. And when you know this, you know that you can shift the focus of your flashlight if you don't like where it's focused on right now. So to give you an example, Like when everybody's focus, when everybody's flashlight is being focused, let's say, on bad news every day, fearful news. Our mainstream media every day tells us to focus our flashlight on bad news, on the war, on whatever it is. And so everybody focuses their flashlight on that. And all of us, our energy gets depleted because we think we live in this horrible world and our politicians are horrible and we have to do something about it. And we all get angry, and we get angry at people who are not doing anything about it. And we're all focused on this. Now, what if I told you that if the floodlights went on and you actually then realized that there is actually more beauty than there is ugliness. There is more health than there is sickness. There is more kindness and love in the world than there is hatred and war. There is more goodness in the world than negativity. There's way more goodness. There's way more beauty. There's way more kindness, way more wellness than all the negative things. However, all those negative things is what makes money from mainstream media. And so that's why they have our flashlights focused on that. But the other thing that happens is that when we buy into it and focus our flashlight on that, we're doing a whole bunch of things that's not conducive to us to creating a joyful world. What we're doing is we are actually magnifying that negative thing. First of all, by giving a lot of airtime to the mainstream media, so more of us are tuned in, and so then they continue to give us more feed, more of that. But the other thing is, if you understand how energy works, when we feel this fear of the war, when we feel the anger, when we feel the hatred, we're actually bringing more of that energy into the world, and we're perpetuating it. But if we were willing to shift that flashlight onto the kindness, onto the wellness, onto the beauty, onto the wonderful things that happen, and we magnify that, we would actually be bringing more of that into the world.
So what is your definition of love? Because you're kind of describing it, but from your experience as well, and what you have been inspired, how can you just, I mean, you can't describe in human terms, but is that all there is, right? The fears of the human world, would you say? Yeah.
Love is the opposite of fear. And the fear that we feel in the world, the anger, the rage, the hatred, the divisiveness, all of that is the opposite of love. And if we could feel the love for ourselves, feel the love for the world, feel the love of the soul and the spirit that is within each of us, including ourselves, then we would actually be able to change the world. Because one of the things also I realized, again, I was brought up to believe I had to serve everybody else, and it was selfish to serve me. I learned how to see God in everybody's eyes, but not my own. And so when I died, it was the first time that I learned to see God in my own eyes. I realized, oh, just like I'm able to see that every human is a reflection of God, I need to see that even I am a reflection of God. And to me, that is love. It's not just seeing every other human as a reflection of God, but it's seeing yourself as a reflection of God. And when you see that, then you embody that. It becomes who you are. You can say you love everybody else, but when you don't feel love for yourself, you come from a very empty place where you bounce around feeling fear and listening to everybody else and getting lost and getting depleted and feeding off other people's energies.
Is that how your healing began then, after when you came out of the coma? Is that how the healing began, with the feeling of love for yourself?
Yes, it was the realization. It was the realization from my soul, the realization that I am love. We all are. We all are. I had no trouble seeing everybody else that way. I could never see myself that way. And it was the realization that love is not something that you're supposed to force yourself or teach yourself to feel for people around you. It's just something you embody.
It's just the way it is.
It's
It
just the
just
way
is. It just
it,
is.
yes, it
And,
is.
and Anita, what do you think the importance of forgiveness is
Great question.
for people?
Yeah. I think forgiveness is important because it releases you. When you can't forgive, whether it's yourself or someone else, it holds you trapped in that energy of that which you are angry about or that which you can't forgive. It keeps you trapped in that trauma so that it's there to rear its head again. It gets triggered when somebody says the wrong thing or when you're in particular types of relationships where people act a certain way. So if you haven't forgiven something or someone or a behavior or something you did, it will constantly get reenacted. And so you will spend a lot of your time and energy trying to keep it repressed so that you can live a normal life. But to me, forgiveness means allowing it to come to the surface and dealing with it and accepting it. And if it's forgiving yourself, it's like really loving yourself through this. No matter what it is, it's like, yes, I did that, but the only way I can go past this is to really love myself through it and know that I was doing the best I could at that time. And then if you have to make amends, apologize, just do it, regardless of whether people accept your apology or not. Now, if it's a case of you have to apologize to people and they are not accepting it, or you have to forgive someone else and you're struggling with forgiving that person, what I ask people to do is use visualization. Visualize yourself having a conversation with those people with whom you either have to forgive them or they have to forgive you, whatever it is. Visualize those people, you having a conversation with them, and visualize the conversation that you would like to have, like, and then visualize the best possible outcome, your ideal case scenario, and keep doing it. And eventually they will feel it. They will actually feel it.
Yeah. I've heard that before from a healer years and years ago. Said you can forgive on a higher level, their higher selves. You can forgive that way. It's so true. Just that act, just that thought, just that intention can certainly be heard in
It
depth.
changes the energies because, and this is the thing, I think most people who are entrenched in this three-dimensional, five-sensory world and think that's all there is, they don't realize how powerful our energy is and how we impact people just with our energy, with our words, with being in the world. They don't understand how impactful we all are. And
the rippling effect also, the rippling effect of us and our choices and how we speak and our thoughts, that rippling effect is probably very, very important, I would think.
100%, exactly.
Anita, could you speak about the art of allowing?
Okay, so the art of allowing means allowing, for me, what it means is allowing our soul or our spirit to work through us. So the way I would give an example, I like to give examples from my own life, but I invite people to relate it to something in their life. I was lying in a hospital bed dying, and the doctors said I wouldn't even make it through the night. And yet, years later, here I am, doing what I do. And I would never have been able to figure out how to get from that point of lying in the hospital bed dying to where I am today. I'm not that smart. If I had to figure out how to do it step by step, and if I had to tell you, this is how you do it, I wouldn't have been able to figure it out. I wouldn't have been able to do it. But when we step out of our way and allow our soul or our spirit to take the lead and use our body as a vehicle to follow, to me, that's what it means by allowing. And I can go deeper into this, like how, why, and how it kind of looks like when we do that.
Please.
Yes,
So,
please. We're
so,
enthralled.
so first of all, what I tell people is don't think just purely in terms of the physical and in terms of step by step by step, and this is what I want to manifest. I tell people that when you have quiet time, go inward, meditate. And I do a lot of journeys like on my platforms and everything, and in my events, journeys where I take people deep. And the idea is to find your soul's purpose. What was your soul's intention when it came here? And so for me, what healed me was that when I was on the other side, the clarity was, oh my gosh, my soul has an intention. It's that. It's that. And that's the aha that I want people to get. My soul has an intention, and it's this. And when you get it, that this is my soul's intention, now allow your soul to manifest. Like everything you do has to support your soul's intention. And so when we just use our mind, our brain, and we say, oh, I want to get the big house, and this is what I need to do, break it down step by step by step, you're living very linear. You're living in three-dimensional space and time. You're not using the art of allowing. You are actually forcing it with your will. I need to get this job. I need to bring this income. You're forcing it. But when you do it the other way around and take your brain out of the way, and let's go inward, and you go in, you could say it's through your heart. You go into meditative state. You ask your soul before you go to sleep. You say, okay, show me, what is my intention? Give me insights. In the morning, you wake up, you say, show me clues. Some of the clues of your soul's intention is what gives you joy? What are the things you love to do that you just don't even think about it when you do it? You don't even think about charging people, and time just flies when you do this thing. For me, I never knew it, but one of the things was just communicating, it was writing was one of the things, just writing and writing. I never knew that was something that I did. Another thing was also just being able to talk to people and inspire people. I never knew this before the near-death experience. I've never been a writer. I have never been a speaker. I was someone who was super shy and felt that I was an introvert. I never would have guessed I would be doing this today. But it was when I was in that near-death experience, I was like, oh, my soul came here to shine. So for everybody, it's something completely different. It could be just something like to be the best mom or dad ever, or to be the best writer, or to be, it could be anything. But the thing to tap into is that feeling. And I didn't know exactly. So even if you don't know exactly what it is, because even in my near-death experience, I didn't know exactly what it was, what it would look like 100%. All I knew was that I had a bigger purpose, and my soul has a purpose. And I also sensed, so there was a few things I sensed, and that's the aha piece, getting in touch with the soul, and what is the soul feeling and wanting, and let the soul lead you. And for me, the sense I got was that, this is going to sound weird, but I had always been this doormat and this little mouse of a person, with people telling me, you can't do that. You can't go out and work. You need an arranged marriage. You can't do that. You're a woman. You're a woman. I was always repressed. And now here I was dying in the hospital bed, dying with the doctors saying, she's not going to make it through the night. No, all of this. For the first time, my soul was like, boom, huge. I was like, I'll show them. For the first time, that's what I felt. And then when I came back into physical life, I came out of the coma, the healing just happened very spontaneously. The doctors didn't know how to explain it. Within weeks, they couldn't find cancer in my body. But the fire in my soul that came with me since the near-death experience, if I put it into words, like with everything, I was always the one that was the last to be picked on the team at school. I was always the one that was the underdog. But the fire that the near-death experience gave me, and that experience with being in my soul, was more like, I'll show them. And it's been that all the way since I've been back. It's like, I'll show them, but not in a bad way. What I want to show people is that we can change the world, but we can change it with love. That's what I want to show them.
Wow. And you're flying everywhere now.
Wow.
I have to ask this question because it comes up a lot, and you're the expert here. A lot of people who have near-death experiences experience different things, and sometimes they talk about a darker place or a hellish place. How do you explain that experience?
So from my experience, now I don't want to undermine other people's experiences or negate what people have experienced, because for them it's very, very real. Right. Just like for me, my experience is very, very real. And I don't want people to think that just because I didn't experience something, right, I'm not trying to say that it's not true. At the same time, the way I experienced my experience is that it was a state of non-duality. The way that I gained my understanding, it feels like in this way of understanding things, there is no room for hell. There's no way for hell to exist. It just can't, because there was no physical being outside judging me. It was like we are all connected. We all together form this source. And when I say together, I don't mean just the people physically alive. I am talking about all the people that have lived before, and our guides, and people who have never incarnated. They could even be people who today we hear about UFO sightings. They could even be the people who today present themselves as interdimensional beings coming and visiting us from other planets, or interplanetary beings. But it felt as if every kind of life form is somehow connected and interwoven, and all of it at its non-physical form was pure love. And when all of us in our non-physical form is pure love, where's the room for hell and judgment? There was only compassion from every single being. And this is the other part, is that what I felt is that the people who hurt us most in our lives are the ones who realize what they've done when they're not in the physical body. They are the ones helping us the most from the other side. So in other words, the ones who commit the most atrocities from the limitations of being here, when they cross over, they are the ones that are helping us the most.
I've heard that before many times. Exactly. I've heard that before. Well, I'm going to ask you, how can you explain the Holocaust or major things like that? The soul groups take that on to learn lessons, or what would your take on that be?
So there are so many ways so I don't interpret it in one single way. Same. And yeah. And so there's a few things going on. Like number one, I would say, like, first of all the people who say Hitler was evil and so on. Yes, I mean, I'm not condoning what he's done. It's awful. I can't imagine anybody killing off so many people. But what I also want to say here is that there had to be some kind of upheaval at that time, an energetic upheaval among the people, for Hitler to even be able to harness that many people to support what he was doing. Somebody like that, they don't act alone. They need a lot of people to follow what they're trying to do. And the only way that they can do it is when they sense that there is some kind of what's the word for it? Like when there's a dissonance, when everybody's not happy with things going on. It's kind of like what we're experiencing a little bit to a milder state in our world right now. It would be very easy for somebody to step in and garner all the angry people and create something that's not very pleasant. And so Hitler was, I would say he is the face of an energy that was happening at that time. That's what I'm trying to say. We're putting all the blame on one person. And yes, of course, you know, he deserves it, but we're putting the blame on one person, but he was just the face of an energy of something that was bigger than him and going on. It was, you know, it was under the surface and he brought it out.
Great explanation. Wow.
Yeah, really.
And at the same time, I don't want to undermine what he did because it was atrocious and so many people suffered at that time, which was horrible. This is why, and even now, I see little uprisings here in today's time, today's energy that we have in the political arena. I think it is becoming more urgent for us to spread the message of love, for us to spread the message of how love and fear are just two opposing energies. That's all they are, two opposing energies. And each one of us has a choice as to which energy we want to buy into and attach ourselves to. And currently, the fear energy, because they have a bigger platform, they have mainstream media, they have the political arena, that fear-based energy is spreading faster. And that fear-based energy is what can really bring us down, because the fear-based energy, it's the fear that makes people spend trillions of dollars on nuclear weapons to kill each other instead of spending our resources to feed each other and help each other and love each other. So that fear-based energy is spreading faster. It's become more important that we actually spread the love energy and we become love activists.
I'm incredible. And I'm sorry to say this, but we're running out of time. So I can't even thank you enough. There are no words in this human experience, Anita, to thank you for your
Thank you, Anita. You have such a wonderful way of explaining things. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And before we go, James, do you have something? You have a class coming up?
I have an evening of readings, Evening of Spirit, June 17th. That's on my website if you want to register for that. Okay. And Kelly, you have something coming up.
I have a class on June 22nd, Healing Family Trauma. So please join me on June 22nd.
And Anita, what do you have coming up? Because I know you have some things coming up. Omega Institute.
I have Omega coming up in less than 2 weeks. Would love for people to join me there. We still have a few spots left, so would love that. And lots of other events. Check out my website and, of course, my books. My recent book is Sensitive is the New Strong, where I speak about some of the things I just touched on.
And the moment I met you, Anita, when we met in the B&B back there at Omega, I always felt a sense of protection around you. Like, she's got to be protected. I've always felt that. And you just explained those lifetimes where you're taking advantage of. It's funny, just put those two things together.
Oh.
You're a very kind, compassionate person. I'm just so thrilled you're living out your soul's purpose, your soul's destiny.
Gosh, and we definitely need a part 2, Anita.
Yes, definitely.
I would love that. Thank you. You're both so lovely and kind, and I loved the questions. They were so thoughtful, and I just loved them.
They just pop in our heads. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you both.